Have you ever wondered where a lie can get before I turn into a full comedy the divine? You know that feeling that, sometimes, life seems like a show of dreams, where everyone tries to sell you something that at the bottom, it only serves to make us laugh, nervous? As it is, he thinks he's just a character who is able to sell you a miracle in a bottle, and at the end of the day, it ends up being swallowed up by a swarm of honeybees that seem to have come out straight from a sermon of heaven. Have you ever gone through something like this? Maybe not exactly, but I'm sure you know someone who has attempted to sell a few miracles on the cheap in return for a piece of the faith. And stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out now. You will be surprised. And maybe even help them see the kind of life, with a bit of humor and hope. In the world of trade shows, and the promises, there's always that one guy who is a true prophet out of the pocket, filled with the smile of someone who has sold out the sand in the desert, and you think you can convince to the stones to believe in him. Have you ever noticed how those characters will appear in the hours in the most unlikely? Sometimes, it's a simple Sunday the sun turns into a stage for a story that is a mixture of funny, absurd, and a touch of divinity, which turns out to be a big lie. And the people who love a good story, it is right there, watching it all with one look, man, like, does anyone still fall for that? But the reality is that, too often, people trying to sell you a miracle you have in your head, in the hope of deceiving the other, it's just that, at the bottom, it also ends up being tricked by his own vanity. Today, I want to take you to the inside of one of those stories that seem to be up on a stage play, with the characters and wacky situations in the title and a lesson in that, in the end, it's more funny than sad. Because, deep down, anyone who tries to sell them a miracle in a bottle discovered that sometimes the greatest miracle is the foam that has been on the face of it the same. You'll see a line that is, believing that he could deceive the people with water, the bright, and the promise of spiritual healing, it ended up being the victim of a punishment is so much more fun than any of the judgment of God. And all of this, of course, with a touch of humor, and popular, which is only fair, and in the streets, know how to give. So, stay with me, because of what is to come is a story that is a mixture of faith, deceit, laughter, and it's a lesson in that, if you look closely, you can change your view of the world. And, who knows, even make you think twice about believing in everything that I sell on here. Now, in order to understand what is really behind the story, you have to go to the next step. As they delve deeper into this narrative, one that is becoming more and more apparent that there is more than what meets the eye at first glance. Many of the times, we are led to believe that with all that is displayed is the truth but in the essence of the life, usually to show us that there are layers of hidden details that go unnoticed in the hustle of day-to-day life. It's that time of reflection on what we perceive to be a blind faith can make us blind to the deeper questions, the signs that the universe is, or even the people around us, try to send it to us. And, along the way, you begin to understand why it is so important to question, explore, and pursue the things that really makes no sense to our minds. This is not to be skeptical about everything, or to live in constant doubt, however, but rather to cultivate an attitude of openness and the courage to look beyond the surface. When we do that, we can begin to understand how our own perceptions may be limited, such as small truths you can hide the big lie. This discovery is as disturbing as it may be, it also brings a feeling of release, as if to open your eyes, and finally, we can see more clearly what really matters to you. If this is a subject, it made sense to you, leave it here in the comments which one you touch in you don't want it all up with loving care. Your participation is what keeps you in this journey to live, because when you like and comment, we understand that this message needs to reach out to more people. And if you want to continue to explore this kind of thinking to me, take advantage and subscribe to the channel. This video is a step further on our journey. Right now, for us to continue to deepen this topic, there's something even more important what you need to understand. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because I realize that it's the true transformation happens when we begin to look beyond the surface, when we seek out answers and we ask that you, too many times, and have been taught as truth. It is at this point that your mind begins to open up the space for new understanding, a kind of awakening silent, that is often only noticed when you looked at it more closely into it. And on this note, that listens on the inside, this is the one that reveal the hidden layers of our own reality, and for those that have never taught us at school, but there are, in fact, shape, and every decision, every sentiment, every move that we are the light of the world. Because you are, in essence, all the things that we believe to be the truth of it is, most of the time, as a result of the social construction of a collective narrative that has been passed down from early on, and without that we will have the chance to decide whether it really makes sense for those who are, in fact. When we begin to question this narrative, something begins to happen inside of us. A type of release is silent, almost imperceptible at first, but over time, it becomes a powerful force that can transform our way of seeing the world. It is as if we were waking from a deep sleep, in which our deeply held beliefs act as a current invisible, and in the holding of a comfort zone, which, in fact, it's never been comfortable with the fact. So, in this process of awakening, we begin to realize that our freedom is about choosing what to believe in, to decide what stories we want you to approve and which to let go. Because the truth is, a lot of times, we carry a huge weight of concepts that are not even our own, which we are imposed by culture, by the influence of, or a question not addressed, that he was saved from the bottom of my heart. And this is where it comes to the question of the authenticity of this constant search for you reconnect with who you really are, so to decouple the core to the skin social, which we use to appeal to in order to survive, or just simply to avoid the discomfort of looking at our own risk. This authenticity is not something that is apart from one time to another. It is a journey of discovery in a small revelation that will accumulate over time. And then, how much more will we allow ourselves to see beyond the surface, the more we realize that life is a mirror, reflecting back on all the things that we have inside of us. So, if you're stuck in a narrative of fear, doubt, or insecurity, and that's exactly what we are going to lure you back. But if we look into the courage and welcoming to each and every doubt, every fear, every doubt, we can begin to open up space for a new narrative, a story that is more on who we are and what we want to create. The truth hides behind all of this is that change starts in our mind, in our view of the world, and our ability to realize that we are the authors of our own story. And that's the way that we can understand what's going on. We change our reality. Because, deep down, all of the things that we think, everything we feel is only a reflection of the universe is inside that need to be taken care of, fed up with the intentions of the conscious, and a more in-depth understanding of our role in this great drama of life. And, so, each and every decision we make, every choice we make, will have a greater say because we understand that we are not victims of chance, but are the creators of a reality in which you can shape to suit what you really want. This is a major key to understand that true freedom is understanding that we are all responsible for everything that happens inside and outside of us, and that this is also a chance to rewrite our history, with more strength, more love, and more authentic. And in that moment of reflection, I realized that a lot of people are still stuck on the idea that the world is out there as the one who dictates our fate, when, in reality, it all starts on the inside. It's as if we are looking for answers, in a mirror, darkly, not realizing that what we really need is to clean the lens, take off the layers of dirt on the emotional and mental, which prevents us from seeing clearly. Because, at the end of the day, the biggest revelation is that the change we seek in the outside world will only happen when you first turn the thing that we have in ourselves. And in this transformation, it is a day of quiet, sometimes lonely, but it's deeply liberating. When we fail to understand that we are the creators of our own universe, and it all starts to make sense in a different way, the more you take, the more it is true. So, yes, life is no longer a battle, and it turns out to be a dance. It is an expression of our authenticity, more pure, and a continuing celebration of the power we have to rewrite our story of the day. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. Because, in reality, the realization that we are the authors of our own reality and takes us on a journey of self-discovery, which is, in many cases, they are silent and challenging, but it's deeply liberating. When you realize that every thought, every decision, every action, however small it may seem, it has a direct effect on that which is manifest all around us, we begin to see the world through different eyes. We are no longer victims of our circumstances, or trapped in a destiny predetermined. We are, in essence, the artists who are shaping their own landscapes. Paint them in your own story with the color of your choices. And this is a responsibility initially. It may seem like a daunting, because you need to have the courage to confront their own shadows, recognizing patterns that we might have avoided for a long time to admit it. That's all that we have lived up until then. It was, in a sense, a creation of our own, even if unconsciously. But this is where the magic happens. When faced with that responsibility, love, and compassion, all of that changes. Because, when you understand that you have this power, too, we begin to realize that there is immense freedom in the ability of the can to fit in, to create a new path. We are not prisoners of our past history, but the architects of that which is to come. And this change in perspective, it is like a seed that germinates very slowly, beginning to grow inside of us, to reveal a quiet strength, a hope that we can, yes, to transform our lives from the inside to the outside. Well aware of that, he invites us to look at what seemed to be fixed, immovable, and to realize that everything is fluid. That is, our emotions, our beliefs, our dreams. In all of this, it is a raw material that can handle the intent, focused, and with a love of their own. So, the question is, how do I make this change happen for real one? how to turn that understanding into a daily practice that might be touched, which is connected with the essence closer to the truth. The answer, perhaps, lies in the simplicity of the present moment, the attention we devote to each and every thought, and every feeling that comes up, in the way we choose to relate to the life. Because, deep down, that this is a journey of self-discovery, deep look into and to find out what the limit is often in our own minds, in our old patterns, in the stories we tell about who we are. And then, when you realize that we can begin to loosen, to free up those weights to make room for new opportunities, a new version of ourselves that we are always waiting to emerge. It is as if, in the understanding of this truth, we start to see a world of possibilities in what seem to be hidden under the dust of your routine. It's the fear of judgment. And in that vision of the light giving us the courage to take small steps, but firmly, in the direction of living a life more aligned with who you really are. Because, in the end, it all comes down to this discovery, that we are the creators, we have a power within you that far transcends the limitations of both the apparent and that when you wake up to it, you can make any scene, any relationship, any challenge into an opportunity for growth. That's the beauty of it, to understand that our reality is a piece of art that you can paint with all the colors of the intent of our authenticity and our self-esteem. And, in the process of the revelation, it's one thing becomes clear. The more we connect with that truth, the more we realize that the universe conspires in favor of the one who knows him deeply. It's all around us, it is an extension of what we carry inside of us, and that is to take care of what is on the inside us, all around us. If you adjust the line up, it turns out. It's like a dance, where every step you take, every movement, is an expression of our essence is genuine. And this is the dance, when performed with awareness, it is a celebration, a constant, an expression of gratitude for the opportunity to be the authors of our own story. And then, when you realize all of this, we are asked to go further, to explore the more subtle layers of this fact, the question of what we thought the absolute, and to find out what, in essence, everything was at our fingertips, just waiting for these feelings. I now want to go more in depth on this issue, because this is a journey of self-discovery, is a journey that reveals to you the real power has always been within us, hidden under the layers of fear, doubt, and the conditions. And then, when you get dunked in the deep, we realize that freedom is not something that comes out of it, but it's something that is born from within, from a genuine connection with those who are, in fact. It is at this point that we realize that each and every decision, every thought, every action, it gives you a chance to reinforce this connection, to strengthen our self-esteem, and create a new narrative that empower them, and to free us. And, as we move forward in this direction, we have begun to understand that the universe consists of a huge blank canvas, a place of infinite possibilities, where we can create a reality which reflects our essence is pure and true. And with this understanding, it seems so far off in the start, it's a certain quiet strength that guides us in the direction of one's life more full, more authentic, more in line with our commitment deeper. That is why it is so important to not only understand, but to internalize the truth that we are the creators of our own destiny. Because, in doing so, we seek the answers out, wait for something outside of us to save, or to complete it, and we have confidence in our own ability to make things happen. Every step you take, every choice is an opportunity to reaffirm that the inner strength to transform doubts into certainty, then to turn your fear into courage. And, in the process, we have learned that the greatest secret of life is in the simple recognize that everything you want is already there, within us, waiting only to be woken up. And then, when you wake up to that potential, we realize that we could rewrite our story, love, gratitude, and know that we are eternal, the creators of our own reality. And so, we go forward, more and more aware of the power that we have in hand, ready to change the world around us, and, most importantly, it is in our own heart. Because, deep down, that this is the true journey to discover who we are, and has always been the authors of our freedom, our happiness, and our future. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. It is, as long as the light that illuminates it penetrates into every dark corner of our soul, we begin to realize that all of this is the story of a search for the external often serves as a mirror to what's really going on inside of us. And it's not hard to understand why. We often feel stuck, as if we were sailing on a sea of emotions and confusing, where the waves seem to take us away from who we really are. The truth is, behind every decision, every fear, every hope, and there is an invisible layer, and a quiet strength that shapes the lived experience, but one that few can see clearly. It is in our own power to create that spark, that, too often, we fall asleep because of the noise of the world, for the sake of the questions in the choke, due to the fear of being authentic or of losing what we think is what defines us. And in that moment, I realize that it's the true transformation happens when we can silence the noise, when you can listen to that inner voice that reminds us that everything is already inside of us, and that all the strength, courage, hope, are now part of our DNA and mind. It's like rediscovering an energy source that never runs out, a source for us to reconnect with what you really are, a being of light you have been able to create, to transform, to wake up to a new reality. It's a feeling of release, with a certain quiet, is that, when you change your perspective, change the world around you, since everything is a reflection of what we carry within. The feeling of being lost, of not knowing exactly which direction to follow, a lot of times it comes up for the forgotten in this connection, the interior of this force that is pressing on the bottom of my heart, just waiting for you to recognize it and use it with conscious intent. And, if you think about it, I can see that every choice we make, every step we take in life's journey, this is an opportunity to reinforce that connection. Because you are, in essence, we are all creators of our own realities, the architects of our own destiny, even if at times we lose the illusion that we are all the victims of the accident and the circumstances. In fact, a great change occurs when we believe that the power of change is within reach, but you have the courage to look inward, to face our shadow, to take that we, too often, is the one that needs to be carried out. And in that acceptance, that acknowledgement, it is the one that gives us the power to move forward with authenticity, courage, and love of their own. And, in the process, one thing becomes crystal clear: the truth, what we really are. It's not a story that someone tells, not be a mask we wear to please the world. This is something that reveals itself when we try to get outside and start looking inside the door. It is a journey of self-discovery, which often reveals old wounds, limiting beliefs, but it is also an immense power of healing and renewal. And when you understand it, you start to realize that the change is not something that is far, far away, that she didn't have to come from outside forces, or of the circumstances are perfect. Change is a choice, and a daily choice to reconnect with their own power, and to allow yourself to be who he truly is, without a fear, without a mask, just the courage to accept it. That's all we need to change our lives, and can be found within us. Because, deep down, we are into this unseen force which, when raised, reveals a whole new dimension of potential, and the freedom that only someone who knows that you truly able to experience it. And, while you are well aware of that, if it solidifies, an unavoidable issue arises. How much of our own history, and we are willing to rewrite? How much of that is in the limits or holds? That is, in fact, it is a narrative of what we have learned, is a story that we believe to be true, but which, in its very essence, never was it ours. This is where that comes in, the courage to challenge all of this, and to question our own beliefs, to give up old patterns that no longer make sense. Because, in doing so, we begin to make room for a new version of ourselves, one that is free, and it is true that you live at your own pace, and with the deepest truth. And this is freedom, this is authenticity, and become the greatest gift we can give ourselves, because that is where we find true peace, one that doesn't depend on external circumstances, but that it arises out of the silence of the interior in connection with what are, in fact. And, if you think about all of this, I realize that this is a journey of self-discovery, is a bridge to the inevitable, to a life more fully. This is the way that leads us to understand that true power lies in our ability to choose. To choose who we are and who we want to be, the one that we cultivate within us all. Because, in the end, it's all the things that we look out there, it is an attempt to fill a void that, in fact, it can only be filled when we become aware of our self-worth, to our divine essence. And with this understanding frees us of it is a constant struggle against the world, because you realize that we are all responsible for our own reality, and that you have the key in your hand, that we could rewrite our story at any given time. And in that discovery, we find a power that embodies, with a hope of new life, of a certainty, even in the darkest nights, there's a light that never goes out, as long as you have the courage to light it from the inside to the outside. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. And it is precisely at this point that we began to realize that this is a light. Oftentimes, it is hidden under the layers of doubt, fear, and even have a routine in place on her face, slowly. The truth is that, as much as we try to get away, so that we do our best to keep everything under control, which is the essence of who we are, is always in search of an opportunity to give, to emerge from the shadows and show your true face. This force, which we have found, this is not something that is external. It is not a matter of chance, of luck, transient, or in a condition that is temporarily in favor. She is inside, waiting for the right time to be awake, like a seed, which, although it looks like sleeping beauty, it carries with it the promise of a flourishing town. And when we begin to understand this, it changes everything. Because of this understanding, it is not only rational, but it is a visceral experience, a sense that we are connected to something larger, a force that drives us to keep going, even when everything seems to be crashing down around us. It is as if, in the depths of our being, we know that it is this light that we would be enough to light our paths even in the night of death. Where's the hope? It seems to run low, and the fear of it becomes a constant companion. The journey of the self, then, is the search for that divine spark within, this divine spark, which was often off by a society that teaches us to appreciate the outside world, to seek validation in the materials or on the rural areas. But the truth is, when we look inside, we come to realize that what really matters is not what others see, but what you felt, of what connects us to our inner selves. And that connection is the key to a transformation of the genuine, the one that makes us wake up to our own truth, and gives us the courage to face our fears, and accepting who we really are. It is not a quest for easy, because it requires courage, vulnerability, and honesty that at times can be scary, but it's way more rewarding. Each step in this direction, it is a reaffirmation of what we are capable of. What we need is a power that many of the times, we don't know it, and that it is this force, when activated, is able to transform everything around you, and create a new reality where the fear give way to self-love, to hope, and to ensure that, even in the darkest nights, there's a light that never goes out. In this light, we are, and when you understand it, you start to realize that the greatest power is in our choice to turn it on, keeping that spark alive, even when everything seems to be falling apart. And, if you think about it, we are not aware of what that power does not come from the outside. It's always been there inside of us, waiting for the moment to be reckoned with. The key is to learn how to listen to that inner voice, trust, and nourish that light, our thoughts, our actions, and our courage. Because, deep down, each and every one of us is a source of hope and transformation, and a unique story that can inspire others to also become aware of your own truth. It's as if, when you connect with that power, we begin to understand that we are not alone, that there is an invisible web of energy that sustains all of us, guiding us and reminding us that we are stronger than we think. And in this moment of awakening, we realize that the true power is in control of everything around them, but get to know each other more deeply, in accepting our own imperfections, and embracing our essence is love. So, this is the light that dwells within each and every one of us. It becomes a beacon that lights the way, which inspired courage, and, above all, to remind us that we have been able to create a new reality, a life that is aligned with our dreams as the most serious. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. You know, when we are beginning to recognize that power the light within, we realize that there's no limit to what you can achieve. It is as if all of the shine this one is called, all of our energy reorganizes, our emotions, and if equilibrism, and a fresh perspective to come, more clear, more real. And this change doesn't happen from one time to another. It is an invitation to the journal, an order to remember who we are, in fact, to break free of old patterns that trap and create new ones that feed off of this light. Every choice, every action, every positive thought is a spark of the strengths of this call, the one that gives us the strength to move forward, even when the way seems hard. Because you are, in essence, it is a reminder that we are all beings of light, that are capable of giving a new meaning to our stories, to transform the pain into a learning process, and create a new narrative, one based on hope, and authenticity, and the courage to be who you really are. And when you understand it, everything will become lighter, more connected, and more aligned with our true essence, making it clear that the greatest power is in our choice of the up, to believe in, and to allow the light to shine, without fear, without limits, just with the assurance that you are capable of light in our own ways, the ways of everyone who is on our side. And when you understand it, everything will become lighter, more connected, and more aligned with our true essence, making it clear that the greatest power is in our choice of the up, to believe in, and to allow the light to shine, without fear, without limits, just with the assurance that you are capable of light in our own ways, the ways of everyone who is on our side. But, even so, it is not an end, but the beginning of a journey that takes courage and daily, with a decision set to keep the flame lit, to withstand the storm built, that they try to delete it in this light, and turn every shade of the opportunity for growth. Because you are, in fact, this process of awakening, it is a delicate dance between what we are and what we do. We make a trade-off between the load of the stories, the pain, and the limitations of what we can deliver to embrace our deepest truth. And it is in this movement that we find true freedom, one that is not dependent on external circumstances, but that comes from within, from a decision by the silent and steady to connect you with the most pure and authentic selves. Each step in this direction, it requires a reflection, frankly, of a courage to look within, and accept it for what it many times we would prefer to conceal or deny it. And, in so doing, we can begin to understand that everything that we thought to be the obstacles in your journey, in fact, they are lessons in disguise, calls for us to go further in our lives to make us free from the weight of the expectations of others and the narratives that are not belongs to us. The real transformation happens when we learn to look in the mirror, with love, with patience, and with the understanding that we are in a constant state of evolution, capable of rewriting of our history, the new day, and each made a conscious decision to choose love, peace, and truthfulness. And, in the process, we realize that the universe conspires to help those who live with the truth, that dare to go out of the ordinary and dive into the depths of his own being. To understand these dynamics, it is clear that real change comes not from the outside but from the inside, a change of mind, out of alignment with what really matters to you. And this is the silent, often imperceptible to the eyes of the world, but a giant in our hearts and minds. This is an internal revolution, which has made us realize that we are the authors of our own story, and that we have the power to change our thoughts, emotions, and actions, creating a reality that reflects our essence is pure. And, in doing so, we begin to attract into our lives the things that truly resonate with who we are of the truth, and leave behind what no longer serves us, and you hereby release us from the shackles of the past and embracing the possibility of a future that is more light, the more filled with the hope and purpose. In the end, the real power lies in the courage to be who you really are, the decision to no longer hide behind his mask, but also to show to the world the light of the authentic, the one who was born from the bottom of our hearts, and that it could never be erased. I now want to go more in depth on this subject. In this quest for self-knowledge often leads us to places that we would not have thought to explore, and it is this exploration that we can find the greatest truths about ourselves. It's as if each layer removed revealed a new dimension of our lives, freeing us from the old standard, the limiting beliefs that have been imposed upon, and who now, with mindfulness, you can transform into the force. This is a journey of self-acceptance, is also a journey of forgiveness and understanding that we are all human, fallible, and that all is well, since you recognize our failings with love, and will continue to evolve. When we allow ourselves to this humility, we realize that perfection is not the goal, but rather to the continued growth, a genuine connection with who we really are, without the mask, without the mask, without the mask. And in the space of authenticity, you will find the peace you are searching for, a peace that is not dependent on external circumstances, but that which is born of the recognition of our own light, and it's committed to growing every day. And, during this time of reflection, we are faced with the fact that too often, we try to escape the responsibility of transforming. The reality is, above all, it is in our own hands. We are not victims of our circumstances, but the creators of one of them. And is well aware of that, it can be a little bit scary, because it means taking control of our own story, even if it means to face our deepest fears. Yet, it is precisely by means of that courage that we have found in the power to change all of the things that binds us, that, in the limits, which take us away from the path to our true happiness. Each and every decision, however small it may seem, it has a weight that is a giant in the construction of our own destiny. And when you start to realize that, in our perspective, if you zoom in, our responsibility is an opportunity to do something different, to be different. After all, it is the largest of freedom is in one's ability to choose who you are going to be each and every day. They decide, if we allow ourselves to fear, or love guide you, if you are stuck in the past, or reach out to the new one, so that we can create. And now, with this understanding, it becomes clear that there is not a magic bullet, nor is it a secret is hidden, that will fix everything all at once. The real change that is made of many small actions, the choices of daily life that, when added together, to create a new standard of living. It is a compromise on quiet, with the evolution of a decision to no longer be content with the crumbs of happiness, but to seek the fullness of that which already lies within us. And to this day, although at times difficult, it is also one of the most liberating, because it reconnects you with all that is most sacred to our divine essence, our light in the display. And, in doing so, we realize that the universe just conspires in our favor, but that he is also waiting for you despotimos to the truth, for us to remember that we are the creators, will be able to transform any situation when we align our thoughts, emotions, and actions with our deepest truth. And when you understand it, everything takes on a new meaning, a new vision, a new hope, that yes, we could rewrite our story, we start again, from the inside to the outside, with love, courage, and authenticity. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because, deep down, this is a journey of self-discovery is like digging a gold mine hidden beneath the surface of our own souls. Each layer removed reveals a more pure, more true, and that many of the times, was buried fears, doubts, and judgments, and expectations that have been imposed. And it is precisely here that we find the one truth that is hidden, that essence, that is, when you discover, you have the power to change everything around us. It is not just a matter of understanding a rational explanation of who you are, but you feel such a deep connection to the things that actually touches the inside of us, something that a lot of times, it is muted by the noise of the outside world. In this connection, it is like an invisible thread that connects us to our source, our essence, authentic, and, when activated, gives us the strength to carry on, even in the face of challenges to more challenging ones. The beauty of this discovery is that it is not a magic formula, a method that is ready to go, but it is a process of listening to, and the courage to confront what he has always avoided. It is a constant invitation to look inward and acknowledge that, sometimes, our deepest wound also are our main sources of knowledge. When we learn to look beyond appearances, we see that our sorrows, our shortcomings, and our own doubts and carry out a message that is valuable. That we are alive is that we have the potential to grow and develop, that you can change it at any time. This realization is liberating because it frees us from the burden of a fixed identity, a narrative that they tried to put on us, and who, in fact, it's never been the whole of human history. We are the sum of the chances, the dreams, the talents, passions repressed. And when you realize this, we begin to see the world through different eyes. As a place of insurmountable obstacles, but as an arena in which one can create a new reality, where we can choose who we wish to be every day. It's like awakening to a consciousness of the wider. It challenges us not to identify with that which is limited, but to acknowledge our capacity for resilience, resiliency, and self-love. This is a change of mentality. It's like a seed that can be planted with care, and blooms in a tree, strong, and able to offer shade, fruit, beauty. Each step in this direction, it is a conscious decision to align himself with the new version of himself that is born within us, often the dormant, but it is always present, ready to be discovered. Here, at this point, we realize that the real power is not in control of what happens to us, but to transform our relationship with what we have. It's in the way that we interpret our experiences, our failures, and our victories, and that is the greatest force for change. When we stop seeking outside validation that will never come to a definitive way, we can begin to look inward, and to build a more loving and compassionate with ourselves. It gives us a perspective on what all we have in a way, even though, at the time, it may seem difficult to understand. And this realization is the first step so that we can truly break free from the shackles of the past, and the expectations of others and our own self-destructive. At this point, we realize that authenticity is our greatest weapon. When we allow ourselves to be who we truly are, without masks or pretenses, we've created a genuine connection with the people and with the people around you. This connection is what gives us the sense that it makes us feel that we are living according to the truth, even if it is in a constant state of evolution. And this development, in turn, is a call for us not to hold on to the old versions of themselves, but that they would embrace the opportunity to reinvent yourself each and every day, with a spirit of courage and love. Because, deep down, this is the essence of transformation, the courage to turn over a new leaf, to rewrite our story of hope and faith in knowing that we are the authors of our own journey. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. That through this understanding, we realize that every big change starts with one simple act of courage, the one to look out for inside. If you allow yourself to feel it, to accept it, the truth did not need to follow a script that is external, but it is only invisible until the moment when they decided to admit her. And in this recognition, we found a quiet strength, a new hope is born from within, and is able to drive up to new ways, a new dream, a life more in tune with our inner selves. It's like a seed that can be planted with love and patience. It becomes a sturdy tree, which provides shade and fruits, even in the storms, the hardest. And it is this inner strength is what sustains us when everything seems to fall apart, because it comes from a place that doesn't get us to our deeper truth. And the truth is that it gives us a sense of, is that it reminds us that even in the darkest nights, there's a light that never goes out, just need to learn how to spot it, and then you'll glitter. Because of this, the journey of self-discovery that is not the only one searching for answers, but an invitation for us to take courage in our own soul, and have found that we are much more than what you believe it to be. It's in the accepting of this, our most true you have found the freedom to be who we truly are, without masks, without fear of us, and show us to be vulnerable. And, in doing so, we realize that each step taken in the direction of our authenticity connects us to a greater power, a power that drives us to always go further, even if the way is full of obstacles. Because, deep down, this is the most important lesson of all transformation begins within, and that is the greatest power lies in our ability to choose each day who you want to be. And this is the seed for a more full, more real, more of us. I now want to go more in depth on this topic. It's when you start to understand that this transformation is not something that is foreign to you, something that comes from the outside to the inside, but rather a journey to inner changes everything in perspective. You will come to understand that the battles more difficult they are to the surface, under the circumstances, in which they seem to you to challenge, but in his own mind, and in their patterns of thinking, the beliefs you carry with you without realizing it. So, the big question becomes, how do you actually have access to this power that is within each of us, that quiet strength that is so often forget that it is there? The answer may be more simple than it seems, but at the same time, it requires a courage that few of us are willing to have. It is necessary to confront the truth that dwells within each and every one with all of its complexity, with all of its shades. It is a process of auto-confronto, which shows that they often prefer to hide in, that you don't want to accept it, but that, in fact, that is the key to your happiness. On this journey, it's like a deep dive in an ocean of emotion and discovery, in which each wave brings a revelation. Each and every chain will lead you to a new layer of our being. We begin to realize that our daily decisions are small choices as these grains of sand that make up a lot of possibilities. And then, in a movement that seemed to be invincible, if it makes a call to the courage to rewrite the story you are living. Because, deep down, all you need to do is to decide what you want to be different. We want to evolve, to get what you want, in fact, to free us from the weight of the past and the expectations that have been imposed upon, or that of any questions that choke them. And this is how, in an act of self-love, in a statement, silent, for we all deserve something better, something more in line with who you really are, not for the mask, which is often used to make us fit into society. This is a wake-up call that causes us to realize that our emotions are our best allies, even when they seem to drag us down, because they are our deepest truths. And, when you receive them, we can begin to understand that there isn't anything wrong with being. What's the error message is to resist, to deny the one that beats in all of us. And this is where there is beauty, from the acceptance, on the courage to look inside and say, yes, yes, I'm afraid I have no doubt, but they also have the power. I hope I have the will to change. True transformation requires that the movement to go beyond the surface, to explore our own depths, to see that each and every scar, every mistake, every fear, and they are an essential part of our history. Because, at the end of the day, we are the sum total of all of these experiences, and therein lies the wisdom that no one can take away from us. When we allow ourselves to this dive, we found that the greatest power we have is just our capacity to choose, to decide who you want to be, even in the face of adversity. And that decision, no matter how simple it may seem, it is the one that gives meaning to the whole of our history. It is the gift of a new life and a new version of ourselves that we are here to help you do so. Always be ready to give birth. So, when you look at the journey, we have realized that it is not linear, but it is full of ups and downs, moments of doubt, and in the interests of clarity. But what's more important is that even during the dark there's a light inside of us that never shall be quenched, and a glimmer of hope that he stay on. In this light, it is the one that reminds us that anything is possible, and that, at any moment, we can rewrite our destiny, that we are the authors of our own story. And, in so doing, we can begin to understand that the greatest freedom is in our ability to make decisions, to take responsibility for who we are and who we want to be. And, in the process, we learn what really matters is not what has happened to us, but what do you do with it? Because, deep down, we are all survivors in our own battles, our own shadows, and you in each step that we take in the direction of self-knowledge, it's a win-win. A victory in closer and closer to the very essence of who we really are, that it might be that he was always there, hidden beneath the layers of fear, doubt, and uncertainty. And there you have it. When the truth begins to emerge, everything changes. The world around us goes on to reflect that change, and the people next to us, they understand the light. And we, in our turn, we are able to see beyond the surface. You understand that it's a great strength lies in our vulnerability, in our authenticity. And it is this authenticity is what gives us the power to transform any situation. You have to make choices who you really are on the same side as the heart. Because, at the end of the day, this is the essence of self-awareness, the ability to recognize, accept who you really are, with all of its flaws, and it's still moving forward, with courage, with hope, and with the certainty that each and every step is an opportunity for growth. And when you figure that out, we perceive that the whole of this journey, it is a dance operation between who we are and who we can be, in a constant exchange of energy, the knowledge of rebirth. And, even in those moments when it all seems too difficult, there's a quiet strength that pushes us to keep going. Remember that every challenge is a gateway to a stronger, more aware, and more true to ourselves. I now want to go more in depth on this issue. Because if you truly want to unlock the secrets of our soul, we need to understand that the quest for self-discovery is a journey that never ends. That is, each response is found, It opens a space for the new questions. Every time a new discovery is at the same time a release and an invitation to go further. And, in this way, we have learned to trust the most in the us, to listen to that inner voice that is often hidden by the noise of the outside world, but which, if sound, shows the whole of an ancient wisdom that we carry it within us. This is the wisdom that guides us, that shows us the way, even when everything seems to be unclear, as it reminds us that we are all beings of light, and that no matter the storm, you can always find the right way to give birth. Because, deep down, the real power lies in our ability to choose, in the hope of keeping alive the flame of faith in yourself, even in the face of the deepest doubts. And, when you think about all of this, we see that the transformation is not a journey, but a journey of constant developing day-to-day. Don't wait for perfect conditions, but what happens in the simplicity of each moment, and in the very act of deciding to be better each and every day. It is an act of love and reassurance of that deserve a place of peace within us. A connection is genuine with the essence of what has always been there, just waiting to be rediscovered. And when that connection is strengthened, and the world around us becomes, because we see clearly and to act with authenticity, love it with a little more depth. And all of this born from within, out of the decision to be silent, but powerful, and that we can change our own destiny. And, finally, to understand that power and infinite that resides in each and every one of us, we believe that it is the biggest secret of your life. It is this, that we are the creators of our own realities, and that we have the power of transforming pain into learning, fear into courage, obstacles, bridges, to something bigger than themselves. And that, in spite of everything, that day is done hope, for the discoveries of the little miracles every day, which reveals to us that, deep down, we are beings of light, who never fail to shine through, even when things look dark. So, the real question isn't whether we can change it, but if you are willing to accept this change as a natural part of who we are. Because when we embrace this truth, and it all makes for a lighter, more true, more for us. So, life turns out to be a beautiful dance of self-discovery, where every step brings us closer to more and more of our lives, more pure, more free, more happy. Says right there, I came to realize the truth. And, if you think about all of this, we can begin to understand that change is a non-invasive, unwanted, but a partner, a silent, a friend, who reveals the things that had always been hidden under the layers of fear, doubt, and resistance. It's like a seed that can be planted with the courage, the origin of the slowly growing, and transforming it into something that they often did not know was possible. This is a journey of self-discovery. Tells us that life is, in its deepest core, it's a constant stream of opportunities, where every decision, every choice, it's a chance for us to get closer to further from the truth. And it is this fact that a lot of times, it is dormant, waiting for the right time to do so. This is the one that you really connect with who we are, in fact, in addition to the masks, roles, and expectations of others. When we realize this, we begin to see that the biggest enemy of our progress is not in the external world, but the only thing that we have within us, the fear of being a real shame to see who you really are, the question that we may be worthy of something bigger than themselves. And when faced with these challenges, internal, we take a decisive step on the road to freedom. This is the freedom that comes from within, and that has made us realize that change doesn't have to be scary or distant, but it is a natural extension of our growth, is a result of the courage to look within and accept our shortcomings, our failures, and our vulnerabilities. And, in doing so, it starts to make more sense of the failure, the pain, the loss, because all of them are essential to building a more true to ourselves. This understanding brings a lightness and which looks like a gentle breeze that soothes the soul and expand your heart. Suddenly, we realize that what seemed to be an insurmountable obstacle in our way, the truth, the way, is an opportunity in disguise of a challenge. It is as if trouble were a lesson disguised as a test, a chance to reaffirm our faith in our ability to cope, learn, and evolve. And, in the process of self-discovery, we also found out that we are not alone, and that there is a force greater than us that supports us, even in the darkest times. It is in our potential for transformation, a glimmer of hope that resides in each and every one of us, just waiting for you to have the courage to turn it on. To understand this, one is freed from the weight of trying to control it externally. It's the fear of making a mistake, of the spirit that is in the stall. We believe that true freedom lies in accepting the flow of life, trusting in our intuition, to follow the call of your heart, even if he is in the light paths of the unknown. And that's when it all begins to fit it all in a way that is more clear, more real. Because, when we give ourselves to the process of self-discovery, we have found that we are much more than our limitations, of our mistakes and our fears. We are on a never-ending source of light, and of the possibilities. It is a power that transforms and renews itself every day, in every breath. And in that moment, it becomes clear that the search for ourselves never ends, because we are in a constant state of evolution, which has reinvented every experience, every emotion. And, in taking on such a journey without a fight, you start to realize that the real magic of life lies in movement, transformation, and courage to let go of what was and embrace what will be. Thus, in each step of authenticity, each of the decision-making that is aligned with who you really are, it leads us to an inner freedom that you just can't imagine it, a peace that is not dependent on external circumstances, but also a deep connection with the self is most real. It is in this space of self-discovery that we find the strength to move forward, even when things seem uncertain, because we all know that, deep down, we're exactly where we are supposed to be. I now want to go more in depth on that subject. The essence of a true change lies in our willingness to look beyond the surface, beyond what is believed to be able, to challenge our own limits. Because, after all, the greatest change happens when we've decided to remove all of the things that binds us, when we are freed from the shackles of the past and open up to a new version of ourselves. In this opening, it's a courage to be silent, to a decision to trust you. We can rewrite our story of starting from a place of love, acceptance, and hope. And when you do that, you start to realize that life is a dance continued between who we were, who we are, and who we can become. Every step you take, every choice is an opportunity to align with this truth. The greater the chance of reconnecting with our essence is pure. Thus, the path is more clear, lighter in weight, more filled with real opportunities for growth. And, at that point, it becomes a silent question in the air. To what extent are we willing to give up the control, the need for perfection, in the hope that everything will be easier for you really to indulge in the beauty of the world? Because you are, in fact, it is only then that the real transformation takes place. And it is there that we find our freedom and our true power. He comments that I came to realize the truth. If you've come this far, it's because that's the message he spoke to you in some way. Very few people really is dedicated to reflecting on these points, and if you're here it's because something inside of you here today to make this journey. He comments that I'm with you till the end of it. You know that you've been with me up until this moment fills me with gratitude, because it is this the exchange of experiences, thoughts, and emotions. This is the one that gives meaning to all of this. If the story you have touched, or made you think differently, it will leave your like, because it helps to strengthen the message and spread the word about this idea of people who need to hear it. And, if that made any sense to you, you will continue with me on this journey. If you sign up for the channel so we can continue to deepen your thoughts and building together in a space of growth and genuine connection. Here, the goal is to share content that will inspire and bring out some of the learning, slowly, in a gentle way, and it is true. Take advantage of this opportunity to be here, to be open to new possibilities, and take care of you with warmth in the process of evolution. Now, if you want to learn more on this subject, there's a video right here on the side that complements the conversation, bringing new perspectives and ideas to think together. You don't have to hear for the next movie expands on this journey, because it is the path of transformation is ongoing and full of discovery. So, stay with me, because this story still has a lot to teach us. And remember, this journey is my own, and it's with you that it makes no sense.